Do I have a story for you today? We have Jessica Fiesta George, head of talent and a podcast host herself. My name is Anthony Franzese. This is the Successful Working Parents podcast. If you can believe it, we talk to successful working parents. Title's a little on the nose, but I like it. On this episode, we're going to go way back and hear Jess's story from her time being a single mom, juggling 3 jobs, all the way up to being an empty nester. I know you'll find this one really inspiring. Let me know what you think. I appreciate you listening. If you would, click the follow button, leave me a rating. It'd really mean the world to me. It's the best way to help grow the podcast. Anyway, on to the show. Welcome back to the Successful Working Parents Podcast, the podcast where we talk to successful working parents still working on the title. My guest today, she is the head of talent acquisition at Atlantic Street Capital Advisors. She is the creator and host of the Jess Get Hired podcast. She's a mother of one. Ladies and gentlemen, Jessica Fiesta George. Jess, welcome to the show.
Woohoo. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So first thing we'd like to do is just kick off with a little bit of a background on your career.
Okay. Ooh, I've had many chapters in my life, so I guess I'll start with my current chapter. Right now, I'm head of talent acquisition for Atlantic Street Capital Advisors. I consult private equity-backed companies of our portfolio on all things talent acquisition, strategy, process, compensation. And then I host a podcast, which you've been on as well. So it's called Jess Get Hired. Obviously, I'm in the recruiting space, so it's a play on my name and kind of what I do, but I help professionals at different stages of their career just try to level up their opportunities.
And I love a good pun, so I do appreciate the title of that of the podcast. And I was on it. Thank you. I had a lot of fun on the show. And you have one child. Is that right? How old is she?
Oh, if I reveal her age, then I reveal how old I am. Let's just say she's in her 20s.
Okay, that's fair.
So unlike probably most people that have been on your show, I'm probably at the last phase of my parenthood life. I feel like I've graduated because now I am an empty nester.
Yeah. No, we've had, it's really good to get both perspectives because obviously someone with a 1-year-old is just kind of in the throes of it, but I'm really excited to hear a little bit more about your perspective. But before we get into how it's going today, let's go back. Let's go back to when you
Okay.
first had your kid. So where were you at that time? Were you in talent acquisition still?
Oh, no. That was like one of my first chapters of my book, of my life. No, I had her when I was really young and I was in college and trying to get through that. I graduated high school so I kind of hint a little bit about how old I was when I had her. And then you can figure it out at the end how old I really am. um, so I graduated high school when I was 16, went to straight to college. I had her when I was 19. It was my senior year. And so, yeah, I was trying to get through college and, obviously pregnant with her. And I worked 3 jobs at the time and put myself through school. So, like when people say that it's not possible, it is possible because I worked 2 part-time jobs, a full-time job. I put myself through school and then bam, I had her, graduated, and then went on to retail management and, working retail hours, having a young kid. I got married to her dad. That didn't work out. Another chapter, right?
Sure.
But I had support from my family, his family, and a lot of my friends who saw that I was really trying to make things work, having a young child, and then working. I was a manager at different retail stores, and just working those hours. It was kind of crazy when I think back at how I was able to juggle all of those things.
Yeah, that is crazy. I mean, kudos to you. That's nuts. I think that's exactly what I want to talk to you about as well. So, well, how did you juggle it all? Let's just start with that. All right, so it's two part-time jobs. It sounds like one that's a little more full-time, and then you're taking, I guess, night class or how? Tell me just a little bit more about the structure.
Well, because I was a manager, retail during the day, it was just like squeezing classes in. This was before you had online classes. So that's how old school I am. There were no such thing as like going to school online. If that was the case, man, I could have juggled everything and probably have like my PhD by now. But no, I mean, I was able to kind of work with my schedule being a manager. I had the support of my assistant managers who could kind of take over. So I was taking either Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes or Tuesday, Thursday classes, just depending. And then whenever I was at work, I had people come go pick her up. Um, you know, Kind of crazy, but I was like breastfeeding at the time too. So just trying to like do that in between was really, really hard because we didn't have all the fancy refrigeration like you have now. And so like having to go to your car in the middle of class to do something like that and then head off to work and then not have really a place to put all of that stuff. It was kind of hard, but
I mean,
I mean,
refrigeration, now they ship it for you. Now
right, yeah.
now they don't even.
But no, I mean, just I think the support of my family and friends and just everyone around me understanding that, I am trying my very best. Eventually became a single mom. So they saw that I was just doing what I could to make sure that I took care of my daughter. So I'm very thankful for everyone that, helped me out with babysitting and picking her up from daycare and all of that fun stuff.
Yeah, I've heard that before from other women who also had a single mom phase too, where really like building up that village and building up that support really makes a big difference. Was that probably the biggest thing for you, or the biggest key to success there?
Definitely. I went back and forth with different, friends and family friends that, you know, I didn't want to feel like I was taking advantage of them,
Mhm.
and so, I would try to rotate out, people who would take care of her. And obviously my family living close to them and living close to, her father's family really helped. But yeah, I mean, just you got to find your tribe. You got to find the people that you can depend on. There were times that people forgot to pick her up from school. So imagine that. That made me feel like really bad.
Sure.
So that's kind of where I had to kind of pivot my career decisions. And so that brings me to the other chapter of my book and why I kind of transitioned into, what I'm doing today.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate everything you're saying. I was my parents were divorced as well when I was around 7 or 8, so I was doing the latchkey thing, and I was being bounced around and driven to school by people, and then driven picked up by other people. So I totally understand you're doing what you can.
Exactly.
At that point, at that time, is there any room for you for like self care? I often ask parents like what self care looks like, and how they make time for themselves. Like, are you able to find any time for yourself, or are you really just in survival mode at that point?
At that point, it was survival mode. I mean, I don't think I even understood what, a day off meant. I like now I think I'm starting to realize like all of the things that like all of that hard work that I did, like I can't believe that I was able to do that because now I don't even have that type of energy to even think about, being able to do that all over again if I had to.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't give it up for the world, obviously, I've raised a beautiful daughter and, she's successful in her own right. But at the same time, I, I can't even imagine what it rest and relaxation is. I mean, my mom has this saying, if you rest, you rust. So that's kind of been imprinted in my brain. So I, not only do the podcast, I have my full-time job now. I've always had side hustles. I've got real estate ventures right now that I have, and just finding ways to have passive income, and that wasn't just something that happened recently. I mean, even when I had her, I was trying to find things to constantly do. And I had a lot of side hustles. That's why I had 3 jobs. But yeah, just trying to stay busy. So I don't really know what rest and relaxation was like back then.
Well, you mentioned that you graduated high school at 16, so I assume you were fairly ambitious and successful and intelligent in your own right.
I don't know. I
Don't
knew
want to toot
my
your own horn. It's
ABCs.
okay.
Yeah, I knew my ABCs, my colors, and I knew how to spell, and I got to skip kindergarten. So, I mean, I'm not going to say like I'm a brainiac or anything like
Yeah.
that,
Okay.
but
Well, for the record, I knew that stuff too, and I had to wait till I was 18. So when you're working those three jobs and you have this child and you're going to school, do you have a vision, right? Do you know what you're trying to get to as far as a full-time role or a career, or what is the plan?
well, back then, I thought, I was gonna. At the time, I'll say I was working for Gap Inc. and I was a merchandising manager. So I thought that, in my brain, I was going to like go to the corporate office. And my degree at the time was public relations. So I thought, I'm going to go work at the corporate office doing PR or marketing or advertising. And I did get an opportunity to interview with the corporate office at the time. Went to California, thought this was going to be like what I was going to do. But then reality hits because, single mom, going all the way out to California from Florida, not having the family support. And then the cost of living was outrageous. I mean, it is now crazy, but back then it was even crazier too. But thinking that, I'm going to make this awesome salary, go over there, that was the dream, right? And I quickly realized that I did not have the support. If she got sick, what was I going to do? Right. I don't have
Yeah.
anybody to go pick her up. I can't just call in like I could back then. Um, so yeah, that was the dream. I realized that without family support and friends, maybe I can do something different here instead. So that's kind of what's kept me here in Pensacola.
I often ask parents about the sacrifices they've had to make, whether in their career or in their family life for the other. And it sounds like, I'm sure back then it was a lot of compromise and a lot of sacrifice.
Oh, definitely. I think that's why now I have the career that I've always dreamed of. So I am working like what I consider my ideal job and the dream that I had aspired to do,
Hmm.
um, over 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I mean, back then, you really don't know. I mean, especially as a young parent, what's ahead. Life changes, things come at you. I've been fired before, I've had promotions before, and you think like every time you get into a job, that job's going to be it. Like that's going to be it. This is what I'm going to do forever. And then something happens, right? And so, as a parent and as a professional, you just have to continue to pivot, and your life gets redirected in different ways that even you probably don't understand at the moment. But that's why I feel like I am in that next chapter of my career and in my parenthood. She's not married yet. Doesn't have kids, but I know my next phase of parenthood is going to be eventually one day, hopefully, I'll be a grandparent.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so, like, I want to be able to take all of the things I learned back, when I was trying to raise her up until this moment now and just kind of help, my daughter and then ultimately my grandkids just, not have to work as hard as I do, but understand that hard work is needed in order to get the life that you want.
Yeah. I think that people always, as when you become a parent, you want to do it better than your parents did, right? Or what your mom or dad did. And so I'm curious, was that going through your mind when you became a mom? And it sounds like you're thinking ahead now, like if and when you become a grandmother, you'd want to help your daughter do it better than you did it. And I assume you were probably trying to do it better than your parents did it. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, so my dad was Navy. We bounced all over the world. So that kept me grounded and gave me a different perspective on, just life, at a global scale. My dad died when I was young. So he died when I was 15, 16. So right before, so he wasn't there when my daughter was born. So that, that was another thing. But, you know, my mom and dad always, like I said, instilled this, like, if you rest, you rest mentality. I saw my mom struggle too as a single mom, being a widow. And she worked also a couple of different jobs. So she was a nurse full time. She owned real estate, and that's kind of why I continue to invest in real estate. And then she owned her own convenience store. So she was working during the day as a nurse. She would open up her store before she had to go to the hospital. And then after her shift, she would go close it. So, I mean, like, I see that hard work ethic, and I think that that is a part of why I continue to like strive to do the best that I can do, because you know I saw my mom struggle as well. Obviously, don't want to do the same, but I've learned from her what worked. So I just want to play on that, and then hopefully take that also to the next level for my daughter and whatever's going to happen in the future.
Yeah. What's your daughter's name?
Shantae.
Shantae. So how old approximately is Shantae when you become a single mom?
She was, I think she was like 4 or 5.
Okay. So that is there anything that became actually easier in your schedule, or anything that became harder when you made that transition? I mean,
Um,
imagine if her father's in the life, perhaps you actually have a little bit more time that's opened up, right? Because you're splitting time, maybe.
no, no, no time split, unfortunately. But no, I mean, the older she got, it did get easier. Obviously, going through different phases of childhood. She was able to, especially after potty training. Good God, like
Yeah.
that made it easier. But then, as she was going to different school, there were different options available for after school care. So, I think back at that, it seems like a lifetime ago. That she was that young. That's so crazy.
Sure.
You're taking me back to like a time that it's just it seems like yesterday, but when I think back at all of the things that have happened between now and then, like it's amazing.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's actually a very interesting story. That's why I was kind of digging into that a little bit more. And then fast forwarding a bit, you're a working mom and you have a teenager. Is there
Ugh, yes.
anything that's harder about being a working mom with a teenager as opposed to everything we just talked about, or is it just getting easier and easier as she gets older?
I don't say it gets easier, but I did, I met my husband, who ultimately adopted her. Um, And so I am very thankful that, she had a father figure in her life. And, really that's her dad. I mean, she calls him dad. They are actually closer, I feel, and act the same. It is a very strange
That's cute.
situation because they act more alike. She looks like me, but acts like him. And
Right.
you would think that that was her birth father.
That's
They're
funny.
that close, but he helped raise her from the time she was about 6 to where she is now. And I mean, like the teenage phase, I mean, I don't think I would have been able to do it without him because she was like me, like living on the edge and just dangerous all the time. So, yeah, I mean, very thankful that, I met my husband and, he's been great at helping to raise her.
Yeah. I mean, I think, as you know, I think I have a newborn, right? 6, 7 week old daughter. And I'm just thinking of like, man, one day you're going to be a real handful when you're a
Oh,
teenager.
yes.
Like
Yes.
as tough as this phase is, I had a sister and so I know I know what it's like. So just sort of
Yeah, I mean, I know how
enjoying
I
it.
was as a teenager. I mean, hence I was a young mom. So,
Yeah.
like, I mean, those years were like, I was having flashbacks like, please, 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 please don't
Yeah.
turn out like me.
What any other like tips or like secrets as far as being a working mom and juggling career life and family life that have worked for you?
um, you had asked earlier about like taking time for yourself. I didn't do a lot of that in my earlier career and my early, time of motherhood. But really taking time for yourself is very important. Mental health is a big topic these days, and just finding a way to let, any type of things that are going on, you need someone to bounce ideas off of, not just your spouse or your family. You need to find, friends, and just networking and finding people that, maybe are going through the same thing you're going through. That's been a huge thing for me. But I also, I make it a point now to, once a, usually like once a week, but definitely once a month, set time where it's just like a me day. So I found a spa in my area that has like a membership. So I make sure I pay for that damn membership so that I go all the time. So I'll schedule like once a month, I'll have that, a massage or a facial or something nice for myself. And that's just my time away. And then during the week, I make it a point, especially if I'm at home. I travel a lot, but when I'm at home, I want to make sure that I actually leave my office, my home office, for lunch. Like, go somewhere, go meet a friend, or just go by myself, to get myself away. Because I think just when you get, especially now that most of us work from home, you get stuck behind your desk, and it just gets kind of routine, and you stare at the same four walls, and it kind of drives you crazy if you think about it. But it's good to like say, today I'm going, and I'm going to go grab lunch with a friend, or I'm going to go run errands for a couple hours, and then I'll come back to work, because you just need to get away. So taking time for yourself, having supportive friends and family, I think, are really important.
So I want to also just ask you how it was. We've talked about being a younger mom and working and going to school. We talked about being a single mom and then being kind of a more corporate mom. How about being an empty nester? How was that experience?
Ooh, well, I think we're just now starting to feel that. It's been kind of fun. Um, so we've always had pets too. So I consider those my children. And we're now empty nesters to the point all of our dogs have now passed. So that's been a recent thing. So it is so quiet in here. And my husband and I joke around, because like for years we've talked to each other or about each other or through each other, through the dogs or through our daughter. That now it's kind of like, oh gosh, we actually have to talk to each other now.
Just the two of you.
Yeah, it's just us. So it is so quiet in here sometimes. It's kind of a weird feeling. But we've made a commitment to travel a little bit more. So since I travel for work, if there's an opportunity for him to travel with me, I'm like, tag along. We just came back from like a week in Vegas. So that's fun. So I'm like, well, this could be a preview of, what empty nesting could be. Uh, so yeah, just it's weird.
Yeah,
I'm still learning, and I'm still
sure.
learning.
Okay, well, good luck. I'm sure you guys will figure it out. Sounds like you have some ideas.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the Jess Get Hired podcast. What was the idea behind starting it? How did you fit that into your day, and how's it been going?
It's going. So it started during COVID. I was furloughed from my job,
Hmm.
and kept answering the same questions. At the time, so many people were laid off. They didn't know the difference between layoff and furlough. So I was answering those questions. Then everyone's like, well, I've never really had to like put a resume together. Can you help me? So I started helping people with that, and then answering the same questions like, how do I find a job? How do I like network? I don't even know what LinkedIn is. Can you show me what LinkedIn is? Because people really weren't paying attention to LinkedIn like they are now. Um, so I was answering the same questions over and over again, and I was bored trying to figure out what to do as well to keep myself busy. And so I started doing YouTube videos, and answering some questions that people would ask of me, and quickly realized that I was not made for YouTube. There's a lot of work that goes into a great production. Um, and then fast forward, found a job, and that kept me really busy. And so I was going to just quit it altogether because I didn't have a lot of followers. I was like, well, you look at some of the people who have like hundreds of and like tens of thousands of followers. So I was like, yeah, no one's really watching this thing. But someone said, you should try podcasting. And I was like, okay, let's give it a try. I don't know if anyone's going to listen. And they're like, you would be really surprised. You have an audience and it really isn't about the number of followers. It's about the impact that you create. And I was like, well, okay, when you put it that way, let me give it a try. So I started, doing the podcast thing. We're almost 60 episodes, plus I have a lot of bonus episodes. So over, I guess, like 60 now. Episodes in total. It's been 2 years. Been able to get on a couple of lists, have a few sponsors now. So, the message is taking off. I'm enjoying it. I don't know how I fit it in my time. So, that question about like, how do you find time for it?
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I mean, I talk to people every day,
Yeah.
so it's just another thing on my calendar, and I just hit the record button and we just see what happens. So that's kind of how I fit it in to my schedule. Now there's a lot of, as you know, a lot of editing that goes into it, marketing and all of that stuff. But I'm always online, so I just figure it's just another task for me to do. And
Mhm.
if people listen to it, great. If people don't listen to it, well, I had fun doing it, and hopefully whoever was on my show, we had fun doing it too. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It is a lot of hard work though.
Yeah, for sure. It's obviously somewhat related to, or very much related to, what you do for your day job. So, do you see it as like a professional and personal branding tool, or how do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, um, yes, because I have been in the talent space for about 15 years now, 15 plus years, and I um, see this as a way to not only learn from other industry folks about what's trending, you know, this is also my way to network, and kind of build my board of directors, if you will, to help support me in my personal journey. So I'm using it as a springboard to ultimately take it to the next level. One day I won't want to work in corporate America and want to do something on my own, as far as this. So I don't know where this might take me, but I'm using it as like a way for me to kind of brand myself, learn from others, help others along the way. And if it ends up being something in the future, then we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a
Have
similar
me
boat,
on your
right?
show. Yeah, have me on your show in a couple of years. Let's see what happens.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, we'll do an update. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm in a similar boat. I work in the like the family building space, and so have a podcast about being a working parent, and I think I see them as kind of building out both brands to kind of
Exactly.
simultaneously.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to move into the final segment called Jess's Advice Corner. You ready?
Ooh, okay. Let's go.
Okay, so first question is, what advice would you give to a single mom,
Ooh, a single
a
mom.
working single mom,
Um,
which I guess
a
you'd really have to
working
be?
single mom. Yeah. I would say, you know, don't lose focus. There are going to be days where you feel like you're not worthy or you're not doing your child a service because you're not spending the time that you feel like you need to with them. But I think, even hearing it from my daughter now, that she admired seeing the hard work that I put in, and, she knows the struggles that I went through. So, you know, whatever you're doing, your child is observing every little thing that you do. So they'll understand. They might not now because maybe you couldn't attend, their play or their soccer game or something like that because you were at work. But it's okay because they're going to see later on that the time that you were away was because of them. So don't ever, feel down about yourself.
What advice do you have for somebody who's about to be a parent but still wants to focus on their career?
There's nothing wrong with that, I don't think. You just have to find the balance between being able to do both. Um, we have that hustle culture right now. So, I mean, kids are growing up seeing parents working, one, sometimes two jobs. So, my advice is just try to find the balance. And I think communication is huge. To whoever is around you, helping you with your child and daycare and balancing work and life and family. So just communicating pretty openly, I think, is going to be key.
What is the best advice you've ever received?
Ooh, the best advice I've ever received. I think just being true to myself and not having others dictate what my life should be because it fits a mold, right? So, I come from an Asian family, so there's like the strict, like cultural, like thing that's placed on me all the time. But I think just being true to who you are and sticking to it and just seeing it to the end, uh, whether that's success, you see success or you see failure, at least you did it, and you did it with the conviction um, to do it. So I don't know.
That's great. What advice would you give your former self?
um I would give my former self, hmm that's a good one. I would probably say, don't let life, like, just, what, hold on, let me go back to that. Because there's a lot of things I would probably tell myself, but I
Sure.
think I would probably tell myself that, every time that someone told me no was just another chance for me to show them why yes. um I've had so many doors close on me, and I've had people tell me that I couldn't do something. And, I sometimes take it, I'm a very sensitive person. So when someone tells me no, or you're not ready for something yet, I would tell my former self, let those be learning lessons to just show them otherwise.
Excellent. Okay, last question. What advice do you have for me? I have a 2-month-old daughter. So what advice do you have
Yes.
for me?
Um, So, my advice for you, I would say, is just to always be a good example. Set a good example. And like I said, your kids will see that. She'll see it. Hopefully, you'll have more kids also after this one. But always live your life knowing that she is watching. So just set a good example for her. And I think that would set the foundation for how she will be in the future.
Appreciate that. Well, Jess, this has been a great conversation. Where can people go to connect with you, learn more about you, anything you want to share or promote?
I am on every social media channel, but LinkedIn is my number one platform. So you can find me, Jessica Fiesta George. My website is jessgethired.com. And then I have, Instagram, Threads, X, whatever we're calling Twitter now. But I'm on every platform there is. So, but jessgethired.com would be the best way. And then find me on LinkedIn.
Awesome. All right. Jessica Fiesta George, everybody. Thanks, Jess. Appreciate your time.
Awesome.